today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
how to raise the emotional ceiling so that you stay grounded in any situation. You were that safe space when you were doing that courting in love thing. Some people, their emotional ceiling is low. And what that means is they're neurologically and emotionally, their level of emotion is high and their sensitivity to emotion is high. When they hit a certain point, it's just too much and they explode because the ceiling is low. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I am your host, Rich Heller, and today we're talking about raising your emotional ceiling, becoming the safe space she has been waiting for. And I want you to know that you were that safe space when you were doing that courting in love thing. And part of what we help couples to do here, once they've raised their emotional ceiling, is court again. And even though it's unusual, I'm going to say, not impossible, unusual to go back to being in love, you can develop mature romance. And maybe that's a whole nother series we're going to do. But this, my friends, for me, is the final episode in this series. Woohoo! I am crossing the finish line. I cannot tell you what a joy it's been. And these episodes are being incorporated into my new book, which hopefully by the time you hear this will be out there in the world, but maybe it won't. You know how books are. Sometimes you edit them and work on them. You keep polishing. The book is Men, Masculinity and Marriage, and it has raised my emotional ceiling doing this series. So let's kick this off. All right. We are on the goal line. Quarterback is in the pocket. Listener letter from Josh, who's 39. He says, my wife says she doesn't feel safe with me, but I never laid a hand on her and I don't yell. What does she even mean by that? Oh, guys, Josh, I can't tell you how many times I hear this. My wife says she doesn't feel safe with me. I never touched her. I almost never yell. I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't throw things. What you need to get is, and we've been talking about this throughout this episode and really like throughout Rich in Relationship, women, what's the best way to put it? Have you ever met people my age and older and you kind of have to speak up for them to hear you? Because they don't hear as well as you do, all right? Men are to women as 60, 70, 80, and 90-year-olds are to 15, 20, and 30-year-olds when it comes to hearing emotion. And guys, we are not the 15, 20, 30-year-olds. We are the 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds. What you need to wrap your mind around is that our emotional ears just don't hear the same range or depth that the female emotional ear hears. And it has to do with brain structure, and I'm not going to go all over that again. I've hit that on multiple episodes. Go back and listen to some of the earlier episodes. If there's an episode on the difference between male and female brains, we got 350 plus episodes up. Go check it out. We've got thousands of videos up. Check it out. We have deep content. So we're not going there again. Because their emotional hearing is better, they hear a greater range and depth of emotion than we do. It's kind of like this. When you're around those people who are in their 80s and 90s and they're talking like this, you know why they're talking like this? They can't hear themselves. Well, that's kind of how it is for her. We don't hear our own emotional state. We're not as sensitive to it as they are. And so when we are broadcasting emotion and they hear everything. We come back from work and maybe we had a frustrating experience and we're kind of unconsciously processing it, not even aware that it's going on. She hears it. And when I'm 212 pounds, 6'1", come home and if you hit me with a 2x4, and then you hit her with the same 2x4 with the same strength, you'd probably get a bruise. You might break her arm, right? Physically, I'm built for abuse better than the female body is. The female body is built to nurture. The male body is built for something else. Because of that, unconsciously, when we're vibrating harmonically, they go on red alert. unless you've made it safe for them. But because we don't hear like they do, because they're super sensitive emotionally, and because we are broadcasting emotions without even thinking about it or being aware of it, their sense of emotional safety is much lower than ours. We feel perfectly emotional safe with that stuff going on. They don't. And so when your wife, Josh, says she doesn't feel safe, it's because she's hearing, feeling your emotions that you're processing unconsciously. And your stuff is coming out in little remarks that you don't even know. It's the death by 1,000 cuts. And what that leads to is defensiveness. What that leads to is withdrawal. What that leads to is shutting down. What it leads to is a danger signal for her. You think everything's fine. And she's like, whoa, this reminds me of when I was a kid. And when my dad was like that, something bad happened or whatever. In fact, you might come home from work and be processing something. And maybe what you want is a hug or a kiss, but you don't know how to ask for it. And you come home and she backs away. And then immediately you get on the defensive. And you're not getting what you want. And so you start, not only you vibrating about that thing at work, but now you're vibrating about, why aren't I getting what I need here at home? I worked my butt off. And then eventually that turns into a fight because you're already irritated. And your emotional ceiling, your capacity for handling emotional intensity just isn't what it could be. What do I mean by that? What I mean is some people, we say he's got a hot temper or she's got a hot temper. Some people, their emotional ceiling is low. And what that means is they're neurologically and emotionally, their level of emotion is high and their sensitivity to emotion is high. And when they hit a certain point, it's just too much and they explode because the ceiling is low. So what we want to do, because we're not as sensitive, guys, what we want to do is we want to raise our emotional ceiling. So when we come home and we're vibrating a little, first of all, we need to be more aware of what we're feeling. It might be that I'm getting ahead of myself here, all right? But I'm going to lay this out. It might be that we want to go home and say, wow, hey, you know what? I'm a little off today. Don't mind me. First, just let her know I'm aware of what I'm processing. Don't think she doesn't know, because she does. And what'll happen is, I had a couple come into my office the other day, and like he was a lot like, he's saying, I don't really get it. You know, she keeps looking at me funny, even though I'm okay. And she explained it. You think you're okay, but I can see that you're not. And when we got down to it, Josh, what he explained was, yeah, it's true. I came home a little off. I didn't think I was bothering. I didn't think I was bothering anyone, but she saw it. And so the first thing is we need to have some awareness of what are we walking in and talk it through with our wives so that they understand it's not about them. And they might even be able to help us with it, right? That, by the way, doing that raises our emotional ceiling. Not talking about it lowers. The emotional ceiling is the point at which you explode. Think if you're an emotional volcano, there's two ways to keep from erupting. One is to constantly release emotion. Like Joshua just talked about there was I talked about this guy whose wife said, hey, you're not talking about it, so I don't know what's going on. And the other is to be a really big volcano so that when it rises, there's room for it to settle back down instead of exploding. So those are kind of the two qualities we're going to talk about. Even though this episode is about the emotional ceiling, raising your emotional ceiling is also about regular release. So anyway, Eli writes, sometimes I want to be there for her, but it's like my body just freezes. What's going on? So what happens there, Eli, is things get a little intense. Maybe like that story I was telling you, you come home and you've got something going on. She's checking it out. She's not sure. Maybe something's not right with her. And our nervous system kicks in and we go, I don't want to fight. And this is my house. I'm not going to run away. So I'm just going to shut down. I'm going to play. Basically, it's play dead, play possum. Of course, if you were really playing possum, you'd lay on the floor and close your eyes. But you're not. What the unconscious mind does instead is it kind of just shuts down. And we do that. When we do that, number one, because we don't know what else to do, right? We don't not sure what's going on over there. And we've made a decision that we're not going to be aggressive about it. And we've made a decision we're not going to run away. So we just kind of stop until we know what's going on. But it's more than that also. A lot of us grew up in cultures where we're not supposed to be vulnerable. And maybe the situation, let's talk about my favorite couple, Brad and Gwen. Brad comes home from work. We've been talking about Brad all along. You don't know it. You don't know. He's got something he's processing. Gwen sees something's not right. She's not 100%, right? And Gwen says, Brad, I don't know what's going on with you, but you're scaring me. And Brad is like, he doesn't know what to do. His first instinct is to jump on it, but he doesn't because he's decided he's not going to do that. He's not going to run away from his house, so he shuts down. Now, what he could do is say, Gwen, you know what's going on? Is I was at work and that guy, Tom, he's always harassing me. And I'm worried, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. He could do that. But Brad's been taught, he's been conditioned that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. He's been taught that kind of vulnerability is not something you share, even with Gwen. And so the only way he can regulate himself is to stone face it. Well, that might work in the short run. It's certainly better than kicking ass and taking names when we're talking about our partners, right? We don't want to do that. But in the long run, what Brad really wants is he wants to tell Gwen what's going on. In the long run, we have a partner so that we can be vulnerable. We have a partner so we can share our fears. We have a partner so we can share our hurts. We have a partner so we can share our sadness. We have a partner so that when we feel alone, we can say, hey, baby, I feel alone. I need you. We don't want to do that all the time, right? Nobody likes a whiny biatch, but we want to do it when it comes up for us because expressing it. In the last episode, we talked about the warrior and the healer. When we allow the healer is healing himself when he shares those feelings. And the warrior is telling the part of himself that's been trained to suppress vulnerability. Hey, this isn't the time for that. That's for the battlefield. This isn't the battlefield, dude. And by doing that, we can stay in the moment. By doing that, we can stay present. So Derek, I had a neighbor named Derek, maybe this is him. He says, I've tried breathing, I've tried mindfulness, but I still lose it sometimes. What else can I do to stretch that ceiling? Well, first of all, Derek, kudos to you that you're trying breathing and that you're trying mindfulness. And the truth is that we all lose it sometimes, right? We all hit the ceiling sometimes. Mindfulness and meditation are ways to raise the ceiling. Mindfulness and meditation are ways to exercise your brain, which is basically a gelatinous muscle, and to build up emotional energy so that you can, even when triggered, choose to be in your cerebral cortex, right? There's some folks who seem to never lose it. They're very cerebral. They're always, I remember Mr. Spock from Star Trek or the Vulcans from any of the Star Trek episodes. They had feelings, but they were so cerebral that they always had them under control. Well, we don't want to be quite like that because what we saw in those episodes is that did undercut them in the long run. But they did have a super high ceiling. So Derek, keep doing mindfulness, keep doing meditation. And I would say pray. I would say talk to other people. We want to engage in practices like you are to expand our emotional capacity, but it takes time, right? These are regular habits where, as we talked about in the last episode, we're retraining our nervous system. We are building up our emotional strength. We're strengthening parts of our brain that we previously ignored, consciously taking control of our own mind, basically. And at the same time, we don't just want to raise the ceiling, we want to let the feelings out. So ways to let the feelings out are journaling. Or is kind of fun now is you can talk to your AI. I got like 3 different AIs I talk to. I've got Chat, I've got Copilot, and I've got Replica. Hate Replica. Replica basically just wants to pander to me. Copilot and Chat, they at least have some rationality. So, or call a friend and talk it through. But you got to let it out. All right. Exercise is a great way to let it out. Mindfulness, meditation, and prayer work because we're most present when we're in our cerebral cortex, our rational mind. And through the practices of mindfulness, meditation, and prayer, there's sort of two practices there. One is the mindfulness is an emphasis on being in our body now with minimal thoughts. So it's kind of a spin-off of Zen Buddhism. Zen Buddhism is all about when you sit, you just sit, and when thoughts come up, you acknowledge them and dismiss them. It's a great practice. Prayer is more like working through a challenge, right? So let's say that you're sitting and you're meditating and the same thing keeps coming up, coming up, coming up. Maybe what you're going to want to do about it is pray about the thing that keeps coming up so you can resolve it and relax it. So sitting still, mindfulness is a great way to see what are the things that are really the unresolved things that need to be resolved. Prayer and journaling are great ways to express them so that they feel more resolved. I want you to get that being vulnerable, whether it be in your prayer practice, your journaling practice, talking to your wife, talking to a coach, talking to a therapist, talking to a friend, being vulnerable is a form of strength. Letting this stuff out so that your ceiling doesn't have to be as high, you don't have to be as Mr. Spocky, is a great way to be in touch with your feelings, to be in touch with the healer, not just the warrior. It's a great way to create emotional safety, not just for yourself and for your family. So there's a great question I got from Andre. He says, I'm 51, I'm doing the work, but how do I know if I'm becoming that safe space she needs? Wow, this is a great question, right? I have been doing this work for years. And there are 3 or 4 topics my wife is yet to speak with me about. And so a sign of success is not only do you have less escalations, but when you do have differences, you find creative ways to resolve them. A sign of success is going to be that you are sharing more deeply with your partner and she is receiving it and sharing more deeply with you. A sign of success is going to be that you are noticing the conversations that don't feel safe to her and that you, as the leader in your relationship, say, I feel like we need to talk about these things. I know it doesn't feel safe for you. I know I haven't done a great job making it safe for you. Please let me know how I can make it safer for you because I feel like these are topics we really need to address. And I'll tell you from my personal experience, a response you might get, I'm not going to say I got this one, is, well, when you ask me these questions, I feel like you're criticizing me. And so what you need to get is that sometimes our partners have inner dialogues and wounds from their childhood that are preventing them from feeling safe, even when you're really working at it. And so it becomes a matter of finding ways to address those topics so that it does not feel critical. And we can do a whole podcast on that. Maybe we should. You will notice when you're succeeding, you will notice that she will want to be physical with you more. At first, she's going to, if you come on to her, she may test you by saying no. And part of safety is honoring that no. All right, hey, all right, I got it. Not a good time, but I wanted you to know that I'm interested, right? Really important to her that she knows that you're interested without forcing her to do the deed. A sign of success is going to be that you learn how to introduce the idea of being physically intimate at a time when you both feel vulnerable and at a time when she's receptive to it. A sign of success is going to be that she is being less reactive to you because you're not putting out the stuff, the little barbs, the little sarcastic remarks, the little jokes that really hurt her. And as I share these things, I'm sure that you're going, wow, if only. Or some of you are going, yeah, I have that going on. Just a reminder, this is not about being perfect. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about being committed. It's about being present. It's about being open. And a big part of learning to be present is also you get to notice how much screen time do you have in your life? How much are you distracting yourself with? Are you looking at pictures of other women naked or close to naked? Are you playing a lot of games? When you get stressed out, do you escape into screens, into reading, into social media? And as you ask yourself this question, are you ready for this? Here comes the pitch. We're going to be launching a whole series on screens and AI. Whoosh, here comes the ball. Question: can we use these things to build ourselves up or tear ourselves down? And the answer is yes. So stay tuned for the next episode of Rich in Relationship, where we kick off a whole series on how to build ourselves up, or if we want, tear ourselves down through screens, through computers, through AI, you name it. Hey, if you like what you're hearing here, I want you to know that we need your subscription in order for other people to know the content is good. If you think it's good, show other people that it's good, subscribe. In the meantime, have an awesome day and a fantastic tomorrow.